How many basses have you had?
I'm more of a trebly kind of guy, but 4. But I got my special lady back.
PBR?
No, the King double bass.
Oh.
Yeah, I was. Oh, hello.
I think we're live. Are we live?
Oh.
We're live. Hi, Bernie.
Hey, Mark.
All right. I want to thank everybody for joining the podcast tonight. I want to thank Geico Insurance for sponsoring the podcast tonight and sponsoring the whole series. I also want to thank Shure Microphones tonight for hooking us up with some of this equipment so that we can try to get the audio a little bit better. So hopefully that works today. We worked hard today to get it dialed in. I've been looking forward to this podcast ever since we decided that we were going to ask Bernie to join, and this international man of mystery agreed to do it.
Most exciting 72 hours of your life.
Yes, it's going to be fun. I don't know where we're going yet, what rabbit holes we're going to dive down, but it's going to be interesting. And you know, the whole reason why we started Life in the Apex was to kind of talk about and talk with our customers, because we have so many unique customers who are into so many unique and cool things that we wanted to showcase that for everyone else and just kind of cycle through the people that are local that do business here and support us, so we can support what they do and also talk to them about what makes them go and how they ended up in the motorcycle space to begin with. So Bernie was a natural fit, in my opinion, because well, we'll get to that in a minute, because I'm going to tell a little story about how I met him.
I was going to say, those people you're describing sound really interesting. When are they showing up?
They're here now. That's what makes it fun. They don't know who they really are.
Dun, dun, dun.
So let's get right down to it. Bernie, if I had to describe you today, I would say that you're a machinist by trade, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And a hot rodder and a biker and a musician.
Well, I use that word loosely.
No, you're a musician and a husband and a dad.
I am that too, times.
How do you find time to do it all?
Well, I have hobbies.
You have hobbies too.
Yeah.
Wait, I forgot one thing. You ran a T-shirt business at one point.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you fit it all in?
So
do you sleep?
Well, the first thing that my wife and I did is about 6 months to a year ago, we got on that find out about your history thing.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to find the Jamaican in our blood, because the only thing we haven't done is drive cabs. But Uber exists now, so... But does Uber offer motorcycle Ubers?
They don't, but I wonder if they would have like a hot rod division. Like you could.
Oh no, they have that.
They do?
Sure.
Like Uber hot rod?
Yeah.
And you get picked up in like a
car with no air conditioning. Yeah. You have to manually roll down windows.
Broken windshield.
Yeah.
I think we might have just given him an idea.
No seatbelt.
But seriously, how did you get involved in all this? Like, what got you started down this road of this, custom culture, basically?
My whole life. It started off slow. My dad and I are very similar and polar opposites at the same time.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange because we're both stubborn. We're going to do it. We're going to do it right. And we speak our minds. But my dad goes to the dealership to have his headlights changed. I don't even like someone to change my oil.
Right.
So yeah, my very first car I ever bought was a 1968 Chevrolet Camaro, Super Sport.
Mm-hmm.
I was 18. Yeah, it was just always there, but it took a long time to develop the abilities and the confidence to tear things apart and put them back together.
Right.
Because I didn't have that. My dad's a master carpenter, and cars aren't built out of wood anymore.
They are in some parts of the world.
Well,
So when I met you, I had moved into a neighborhood in Holly Springs. And I remember moving in there with a little bit of PTSD because it felt very, I don't know, white picket fence-ish. And I moved there with my daughter, and you lived around the corner from us. And I remember going by there to go to the park one day with my daughter, and there you were in the garage with this contraption holding up the roof of the I think it was a Mercury.
Yep, 50 Mercury.
That you were chopping the top on. And I'm like, I think that's my people.
Yeah, that was fun. In a painful kind of way. We moved into that neighborhood, and 3 days after moving in, I got a letter.
I don't doubt that.
And we subsequently got letters about every quarter because I think they just kept us on their like cycling letter because they knew that I was doing something wrong. But having me as a neighbor was a benefit because all my existing neighbors didn't complain because I fixed lawnmowers and I welded lawnmowers back together, and I would loan out tools, and I mean I was like Advanced Auto Parts was right around the corner from our house.
Yeah, you could walk
and
there.
I would walk over there and I was there so much I actually would just go behind the counter and get stuff, and they just never said anything. And I actually would get business from there because people would come in and they'd say, "Hey, aren't you the guy that lives around the corner with the old cars?" And then they would want me to do work for them on their car. I'm like, "Yeah, sure. My neighborhood loves that. They love me working on cars."
The cool thing was I was sitting in my garage one day, and here you come driving by in the Mercury with your wife in the trunk, holding something together that needed to be probably held together while you were testing it. I don't know what you guys were doing, but it was scary and cool all at the same time.
Yeah, she's a good sport. That's all I can say. Yeah, I almost lost her going down the highway one time on my Sportster. So subsequently now I have like a 4-foot sissy bar.
Yeah, that probably bought by her request.
Excellent. Yeah, she actually said I won't get on that thing again unless there's something that stops me from flying off the back.
So when did the music thing start for you?
Which part of it though? Because I started playing music when I was 13.
What was your first instrument?
Trombone.
Trombone.
Yeah.
School band?
I was a tromboner.
I'm guessing school band. Otherwise, why would you pick up a trombone? I don't know.
Yeah, well, my dad had one. My mom sold it in a yard sale when I was real little. But no, I ended up playing that. Yeah, middle school. Yeah, and then I switched to drums in 8th grade, and then in high school, yeah, the music teachers hated me because I'm like, this sucks. You got to do like. Everything's so regimented, and it's so do it like this, and you have to do it like that. You can't do this, and you got to do that.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, this isn't going to work for me. So rock and roll.
Right.
Hey, there you go.
So that's where you formed your first band?
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. Dragon Tree.
Dragon Tree.
Yeah. So I actually had it's like this Japanese tree. Looks kind of like a palm tree kind of thing. I had it in my room, and we were coming up with band names, and I looked over and I go, "Hey, how about Dragon Tree?" And it was literally the little tag that was in the tree thing. And the guys were like, "That's great. Where'd you come up with that?" I said, "Hey, you just, came off the top of my head." Yeah, we almost got signed to Interscope Records.
No way.
Yeah, this was that was in, I don't even want to tell people. That was in 1993.
Wow.
So that was like that huge grunge was just taking off.
Sure.
All that whole scene was just exploding, and it was kind of like in the 80s when all the hair metal bands were just like,
right.
Skid Rows and your, Molly Crews, and everyone was going crazy.
Yep.
And all the record labels were just picking up every single band that was even remotely could play instruments. I mean, there was some horrible 80s rock bands, but it didn't matter. If you had spandex and you had an instrument, you were, you're getting signed. So that was kind of how it was in the early 90s. It was like everyone was like, "Oh my God, you got to jump on this train and got to get these bands in because we got to make our money and leave them destitute on the side of the road."
Right. The
And
music business at its finest.
pretty much. And we were a high school band. I think we'd never even played a show in a club. We were playing high school parties and garages. And
So how did they hear about you?
so a my bass player, my good true friend still to this day, John, he interned at this fantastic studio. And the guy who owned it actually produced Stevie Nicks' 3 solo albums.
Okay.
So he was very, very big in the industry, and very intelligent man. And he heard our rough recording that we had done. And so he's like, let me bring you guys in here and let me take care of you. And let's do this the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So we went in and recorded 5 songs, and he started shopping it around, and the president of Interscope really liked it. And he spread it around the office, and everyone really liked it. And I still have it. I love it to this day. It's great. I listen to it, and I'm like, God, we could have been like something for a week. But yeah. So then we went on to do nothing, and no one ever heard of us. Like, we'd never played anywhere. We were doing like garages and playing at high school backyards, and so yeah. So it just kind of fizzled out, and then my singer bailed and went to Colorado and decided to work on a ski lift and smoke a bunch of dope.
That's how most bands end, right?
I know. See, so we had the ending. We just needed the middle part.
Bernie's a true gentleman as well. We're getting some comments on Facebook.
Hey, Billy.
So when did them get together? The band that you're in now?
Man, well, I started
let's back up to Motorbilly.
Well, even before that, so I started doing rockabilly music. So my first experience with rockabilly music is a friend of ours, which is actually kind of funny because he was this like hardcore punk rock guy, straight edge. He was a sharp, which is skinheads against racial prejudice. I mean, he was this like hardcore, huge guy in the scene in Dallas. But there was this really cool band coming to Dallas, and that was probably in '96, and called Hi-Fi and the Roadburners, and they were from New York. And I'd heard kind of rockabilly, but I'd never really been to a show or seen a band.
And how old are you now?
45.
No, how old were you then when that was happening?
21.
Okay.
So
out of high school.
Yeah. Tina and I were married, and yeah, so my friend goes, hey, there's this pretty cool band coming to town. Let's go to the show. And it's in this hole in the wall barn in Dallas. And it's like, all right. So we show up, and the first band was just horrible. They were wretched. And I mean,
it happens.
Sometimes you got to know when to quit. But we were like, this sucks. We got to go. So let's go walk around Deep Ellum, which is, I don't know if you've ever been to Dallas, but Deep Ellum. So we walked around Deep Ellum for about half an hour, and we went back, and we walked in, and we're like, all right, well, let's hang out till the band. They start all setting up, and they get ready, and singer turns around, and he goes, well, if you ain't dancing, we ain't playing. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then they just like went nuts. And then all of a sudden, like, chicks in poodle skirts and dudes with pompadours and like came out of the walls and the woodworks. And I was just looking around going, where the hell were all these people 5 minutes ago? They were not in here. It's like they just they showed up out of thin air. And from that point on. And
rockabilly was it.
Oh man, I was just like, this is awesome. And we always make the joke that rockabilly is the evolution of a punk.
Right.
Because it was actually pre-punk, but punks want a car and they want a girlfriend. Well, what do? Because you're riding a Vespa and no girl wants to ride on the back of a Vespa.
Right.
Even though they were cool. My son has one. But, so you become a greaser.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you can still have the tattoos and the attitude, but you can actually have a car and a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
But and then we went and saw, I think it was like a month later, we went and saw the Reverend Horton Heat and the old 97s at the Bronco Bowl, which is a bowling alley that has a music venue in it.
That's cool.
Oh yeah. It's awesome. But yeah. And then that was it. It blew up.
So then how'd you end up in North Carolina?
Yeah. Well, so we won't talk about that, but it wasn't in shackles.
That's good.
Okay. No, work, I mean, work brought me here. I joined a band, the first rockabilly band I was ever in. It was funny. I met the guitar player at the Starbucks in Chapel Hill.
No way.
Yeah. Cause, him and his wife were pretty into the rockabilly scene, and I don't even remember what T-shirt he was wearing, but they had gone. I think that year or the year before, they had gone to Viva Las Vegas, and Tina and I were sitting there. We would go in there and just sit and draw, and I don't think I was tattooing anymore, but I tattooed for 8 years, and Tina, was an artist, and she paints and does a lot. So we would just go and sit and drink coffee and draw and do whatever.
Yeah.
And I saw him and his wife came in, and I just started talking to him. And then we started, he had started the band, but they were in kind of transition, and we started hanging out, and I started playing with them. It's a band called the Straight Eights. They're still around, and I'm still friends with them. And, yeah, I'm sure we'll share the stage with them when we get back out there again.
So what instrument did you play for the Straight Eights?
I played the stand-up drums.
Stand-up drums. Okay, cool. Yeah. Wow. When did you pick up the bass?
About 8 years ago.
Okay.
8 or 9 years ago.
And for Motorbilly or for them?
No, I played drums for Motorbilly too.
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. I remember that.
No, it was for actually I started playing bass for we called it Appalachian punk grass, but it was kind of like an Americana, like drunken Americana whiskey band called Whiskey Trail Outlaws.
Okay.
And that lasted a hot minute. and then I some good friends of mine had lost their bass player in their band. So I was like, hey, you know what your band needs? An upright bass player. And they said, okay. And that was the Hearts and Daggers.
Right. Miss Jean's favorite band.
Yes, I love Miss Jean. And so that was probably one of the longest stints as a bass player I was in.
Right.
And then it just kept progressing. So.
And now you're coming out with an album.
Yes. The band. So this band started Them Rockabilly. You can go find us on the internet and Facebook and all that stuff. But this band started about 3 years ago when I went back to a machine shop that I had previously worked at. And I met a guy working there who was leaving the band he was in, that he'd been in for like 13 years, and was just tired of music and tired of doing the same old thing over and over and over. And he was tired of music and tired of playing and just frustrated and ready to just give it all up.
Yeah.
And we started talking, and he's like, well, let me give that a shot, because I've always wanted to do it, but I've never had the players around to do the right ensemble.
Right.
And now he's rejuvenated and excited and wants to play every weekend, which has been hard the last year.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was my next question was, so it's kind of unique knowing you, because I feel like we can get an insight into kind of what's happened in the last year in the live music scene, the club scene. I mean, one thing we hate that we even have to bring up is the Maywood here locally.
Yeah, it just closed.
It's
like
closing.
Days ago. Just days ago.
They hung on as long as they could. They had some fundraisers and stuff. And I mean, at some point, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, right? So,
yeah, I mean, it's sad. There's been huge petitions and huge outpouring of cries for help, and then support in the music industry on that subculture level, because I mean, I'm sure even like the Foo Fighters and the Reverend Horton Heats and the Metallicas and the big guys, they're suffering,
right?
And they are, they are, but the people that are scraping away, the Scott Byrams, and the Big Sandys, and the guys that are doing it day in and day out because they need to, they're really hurting. And then you got all your venues,
right? I
mean, like I've told a really good friend of mine owns a great venue right here in Raleigh called the Poorhouse Music Hall. Fortunately, they Adam opened a record store upstairs, and they're still selling records. They usually get fresh deliveries every Friday, and they do curbside pickup. You can buy them.
That's
and they'll
cool.
bring them out. Yeah, it's fantastic. He's trying to do some different things to keep it alive. I mean,
Right.
he's putting his heart and soul into this thing, and I definitely told him when this is all over, we're gonna be having some fundraiser shows for him and for his venue, because we have to keep the Poorhouse alive, and we've got to
Right.
keep all these venues that are that size venue going.
The Poorhouse partnered with us a lot during the Bike Fest days. I mean, we used to do shows there before for the vendors, and I mean, he always wanted to participate to help that event. So
He's fantastic. He's a great guy. He one of the things he did right before this COVID stuff started was he was getting a lot of messages about, hey, you have a lot of local talent, you have a lot of local bands, you have a lot of people in this region and area that would like venues or like a place to play. And he actually made it a point to really start booking local bands more and start using local bands and start, really showcasing local artists. So, I applaud him for it. He still has to book the national acts, because you got to get those people in the door, and you got to get, people to come to your club. But then once they come to your club and they realize you're there and what you're doing. Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, the Maywood really hovered around metal.
Right.
And it always did. It was always a great metal venue, and you could see fantastic metal bands, and big bands would come through and play there just because it was the Maywood.
Right.
And that's the thing that's going to really stink about it being gone. But they would still diversify too. They weren't a metal only club.
Right.
They would branch out and accept other, styles of music in there as well.
Yeah, I live across the street from there, so it'd be nothing for me to walk over there, like go home during a show and come back for the end, or skip a band or whatever. And like, it sucks that it's going to close.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, that's the big scare. That's the big worry for a lot of musicians right now, is what's going to be there when it comes back around.
Yeah. I mean, the live streams was kind of a thing that everyone started doing, but it's just not the same. And, even our customer base, it shocks me how many people, like, they miss live music, and I'm one of them. Like, I literally have tickets to shows that I don't even know when the shows are, and I don't even care, because I don't want a refund. I want the show.
Yep. When they repost that date.
Yeah,
I'm going.
So, do you think there's going to be like a lull in talent? Because if you want to get into music today, and you're a younger person, and that's been your dream, how do you do it? Because there's no place to go.
Well, first they have to stop playing video games.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Man, I don't even know. That's almost a double-edged question, because it's easier in ways. I mean, this was always a really a good joke that some buddies of mine out of Detroit, the Coffin Cats.
Love the Coffin Cats.
Whenever they would come down and play the area, we would always play with them, and they would crash at our houses, and they're just a great bunch of guys. But they would laugh nowadays, because because as young as they are still, they remember when you had the Atlas,
right?
And you would pull into town. And this was, I mean, I remember you'd pull into town and you're like, where's this place? Where are we going? And then you're like looking for that one kid or that one person on the street that looks like they would probably be at your show. And you can roll down the window and say, hey, where's Club such and such? And they're going to tell you, oh, it's like 3 blocks down and 2 blocks over.
Right.
But yeah, now you're like, hey, Siri or Vanessa or whoever you're talking to on your phone. Where's this? And then it just takes you there. But that's such a great thing, that aspect of it, because people are getting their music out there.
Right. Yeah. Through YouTube and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, just through all different channels, recording it and putting it out there themselves and producing it themselves, and, and creating their own music labels.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're not going to get the shows maybe at the venues, or they're not going to get out of the gate, but they can get their songs out there and they can get some recognition to get that, get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I mean, I guess as a musician, that's the most important piece anyway, right? I mean, the other stuff is whatever. I mean, you have to make money to eat, but ultimately it's about the music, or it should be about the music.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. It's about enjoying and loving what you do.
Are you the only rock star that loves the Waffle House? What is your obsession with the Waffle House?
So I have a buddy of mine who's he has a bigger obsession of the Waffle House than me, because he already has his Waffle House tattoo. I'm getting mine next month. No, I mean, I'm from Texas, born and raised, so they're everywhere. I actually remember when Waffle House only took cash.
Wow.
Because they would pay their employees after every shift.
Wow.
So you only could pay in cash. But no, it's just, I don't know. It's the guys always laugh at me. Every band I'm in, they laugh at me because I eat Waffle House after every single show. Well, it's open and there's one everywhere.
Right.
But I mean, it's fresh. I mean, think about it. I mean, they cook it right there when you order it. Find another place that does that.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they don't.
Yeah. And I love talking to the staff in there. No matter where you go to, Waffle House staff are the funnest people to talk to, especially late at night.
They rank second. There's this awesome diner in Fort Worth, Texas called Old South. And they literally have flows working there, like 90-year-old truck stop waitresses who, like, I guess retired and had to do something else. They hired, yeah. And I mean, they have like the 4-inch long, like 90% burnt cigarette. They have a smoking area. Oh man. And that's the best. That place is the best. Waffle House, second best though.
So who has the best coffee?
It would have to be Mel's Diner on Route 66.
Mel's Diner, Route 66.
Yeah.
How many coffee shops and diners have you had coffee in your lifetime?
We don't have that much time.
Let's talk about the hot rod scene and the motorcycle scene right now and today, and how it's being impacted by the generational thing that everyone keeps talking about, and the younger demographic that is doing things differently and spending a lot of time on the internet, that don't learn how to work on stuff in the garage when they're kids, and that just aren't interested in that stuff. Talk to me a little bit about what you've discovered and how you feel about what's happening there, and what that's going to mean for the custom culture.
Well, the first thing I have to say is the Carolina squat thing. That's got to go. We just got to get rid of that. It kills me. No, I mean, it's great, right? I think that it's not actually as bad as people think, because it's so fragmented.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like music. It's so broken up. I mean, one of the greatest things you see is when you go out to these like cars and coffees. Now, when you go to like a traditional hot rod show, it's like pre-65, American made, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they have all these criteria you have to fit in this mold, and that's great. I love those too, because you're going to see some really cool stuff. You're going to see some really cool traditional, well-built, like years dedicated to finding parts and building this car, right? But even the cars and coffee stuff, you see these young guys and they're souping up, a Nissan, or they're fixing up a Honda, or they have their brand new Mustang that they're doing modifications to. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? That's still modifying, and that's still hot rodding. Mm-hmm. Because they're doing it. The thing that is cool is when you see their reaction to the guy who rolls up in a, airbag, or even a slammed like 57 Chevy,
right?
Or like an old Cutlass, or a Riviera that's all blacked out and it's a sleeper and it just rumbles in, and they're like, "What is that?" And it opens their eyes to some really unique stuff that they're not being seeing or that they're not being, invited to. It's difficult, but until you've seen it or until you experience it, you don't know.
Right.
It's like, it's like handing somebody, it's like handing a third, fourth, fifth grader right now a pencil and say, write your name in cursive.
Right. They can't do it.
Yeah, they're like, what's
They've
cursive?
never even seen it.
What's
Yeah.
cursive?
I don't even think they teach it in school anymore.
They are. It's coming back.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
That's good. I still write in cursive. People can't read it.
I curse in cursive.
You curse and write it? So, favorite car that you've ever built or owned?
The one I miss, and I never got to get it running, like really get it running and going, was a 49 Hudson.
That's cool.
It was a Commodore 6 4-door. It basically looked factory like a chopped Merc.
Right.
It was a cool car. Kind of hate I got rid of that.
Where did you find that thing?
I don't even remember.
Just somebody's garage, drive by.
Somebody told me about it,
Yeah.
probably. I mean, that's how that works.
That's how it
I mean,
happens,
it
yeah.
really is.
Favorite car you haven't had yet or haven't built yet?
Well, I just had the startings of a Model A,
I remember I saw that on Facebook.
and I just passed them on. I passed them forward. A buddy of mine sold them to me for pretty much nothing because he was moving out of his shop. He's moving out of town, and he's like, I got to get rid of this stuff, and I'll basically give it to you. And he's like, but if you're not going to use it, then you got to pass it on.
Yeah.
And I got it home, and you know how it goes. You're
Yeah.
like, you look around and you got 4,000 projects,
Yes.
but you could always use one more. And so I hit up a buddy of mine, Dirty Dan, and I said, Dan, please come get this stuff for me because I have nowhere to do. I have nothing to do, with it. And it's sitting here, and it's going to be here for 10 years. And he was like, I think he got it at my house in like 45 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
and he snatched it all up.
I think that's a cool concept though, because you did that to me with that table.
Oh yeah.
You posted that table, which is unbelievably cool. And you said you can have it, but if you ever get tired of it, you have to give it and pass it on to a good place. So that table sits in my house right now.
Yeah. Well,
and I love it.
Well, it's like even my wife and I have discussions about that a lot. And, not everything in the world needs to revolve around money.
Right.
Right. There's a lot of things that are more important. She's a fantastic artist. And for a while there, she was doing these like watercolor paintings. And she would just pick someone and say, send me something you want as a watercolor. And they would send it to her, and she would do it and send it to them.
That's cool.
I mean, there wasn't a fee, there wasn't a charge, it was just because to do it.
Yeah.
And I've done that a lot.
Well, what's funny is I had a party at my house, and Gab, who ran the Contemporary Art Museum downtown, came over to the party, and she goes, "That table is awesome. I have the matching chairs. I don't have the table, but I have the chairs. Do you want the chairs?" So she legit had the chairs for that table that she wasn't doing anything with. So it's just funny how that happens.
It's cosmic.
It's cosmic.
No, it's I mean, if you think about it, that's just how it all works. We're a community. No matter if it's, the people next door, or your neighbor, or the people at your work, or the people at your Harley dealership.
Right.
Right. We're a community. We're not always all going to agree.
Right.
But that's the fun part about it, is that we still all want the same thing. We all want to be happy. We all want our kids to, be more fortunate than we are and have better lives than we do. And, we just, we want to be the American dream. We just want to be debt free.
Yeah. Is that a commercial for something?
Yes. If you're looking for safety and security, Geico. Which I do have Geico on my bike.
Yes. And while we're on bikes, favorite bike you've ever owned or built?
I don't know. I would say style more than particular like bike itself, but just a low bobber,
Right.
almost like a salt flat feel. fat front, fat rear, tire, just wire wheels, just fun, just almost looks like it won't run.
Right. Very simple.
Yep. Just
Yeah.
stripped down.
What are you riding now?
I have a beautiful, not stock, 2016 1200 Sportster 72 model.
With a big sissy bar.
With a monster sissy bar. Yes. It currently has the exhaust on it because I had to get it inspected. And but it has actually the gold flake 72 tank off of another model.
The hard candy gold.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah, a buddy of mine here in town wrecked his. He got hit by a or a texting person or somebody. They weren't paying attention to the road. And everything on his bike was wiped out except for his tank. So I got his tank.
Yeah, that's cool. Best bike you haven't owned yet, or one you want to own or build? What's the elusive one?
I'll never be able to afford a knucklehead, but I would love one. But you just can't even.
Not anymore.
I mean, just can't even find them.
Yeah.
And if you find them, if they're running, they're like, cash in your 401k because because you just
all the collectors are gobbling them up.
Well, it's all the people with money.
Yeah, I feel like that's happening.
Not me.
I feel like that's happening in the car scene too. Like a lot of these cars that used to be $1,200-$1,500 now, you can't replace them.
Well, I'm not going to complain about the TV because we're all addicted to it in some form or fashion, or social media because all of you wonderful people are watching us right now. But that has a big part to play in it. They've inflated the imaginary value of rust.
Yeah.
So instead of people building vehicles and driving them or having fun with them, it's like it's become a collector's item. So they become the obsession of the collector's world.
Right.
But it fades. It'll come and go. I mean, look at the bike shows that lasted for only so many years.
Yeah.
And then they fell off. And then now you can get some of those bikes for you're like, wait, that's it? That's all you want for it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take all three of them.
Right. I see it happening constantly.
So that'll happen. It'll happen in the car scene. I mean, it's like there's people who want they want to sell a set of fenders for like a 32 Ford for the price of a car.
Right.
And you're like, it's the fenders, not the whole car.
Right.
But
that stuff's starting to disappear too. And so some of that is caused by that, I guess. It's funny. I drive my truck every day. It's my daily driver. And I bet 3 or 4 times a week somebody tries to buy it in the parking lot. And I just can't.
No one ever has cash though.
No, that is true.
You notice that?
I never really get to that point.
Hey man, how much you want for that car?
You want to trade?
I'm like, hey, 15 grand, it's yours. You got cash on you? Oh, I was thinking 12.5. Okay, 12.5. You got cash on you? No. Well, then why were you thinking 12.5? I'm at 12. You got $12.50. Yeah, no, people are crazy. Because you know what? They want a reason to talk to you.
Right.
That's what it comes up. Dude, I've had cops pull me over just to look at my car.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, are you giving me a ticket? Or do you just want to look at the car? Because if you just want to look at the car, then just look at the car. You don't need to run my license.
I was at a Cars and Coffee, and this father and son walked up to one of the trucks, and it was a 66 Chevy, I think I had there. And the son looks at him and goes, "Dad, how come you like these things?" And they literally walked past the Aventador. And the dad goes, "That guy over with the Lamborghini, he signed for his." And it made me like, it sort of resonated a little bit that like that whole concept is what a lot of the youth today is missing, in my opinion. And we feel it in the motorcycle business because there's a real gap in like ridership right now, where you used to ride dirt bikes as a kid and maybe you got a small dirt bike for Christmas and that got you going, and that's not happening right now.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the fewer and far betweens. Yeah, I mean, It's hard. It's always kind of it jumps around, you know, like what they're excited about or what they see or what a lot of it's you know, what they think is rare,
Right.
right? So like a Maserati or a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, you know, and they think that's rare. That's ooh ah. But, you know, eventually as they get a little older, they'll realize that, that, 49 Chevy or
Yeah.
that's really cool. You know, it just takes time.
Right.
You know, it takes time, but and it's not for everybody.
Right.
It's absolutely not for everybody. I'm glad it's not for everybody.
I agree. It's not for everybody when you're driving somewhere and you're late and it dies and you have to jump out while it's coasting so you can push it by yourself off the road to get it out of the way and then figure out what to do next. That is part of the lifestyle.
That's the fun of it. That's the fun of it. I'm going to write a book. It's going to be a coffee table book. What to do with your time when you're sitting on the side of the road.
Do you have any hobbies outside of this culture?
Wow. Hobbies. Sure.
I mean, not like you have any time.
Well, I do metal sculpture.
That's cool.
I actually do. Yeah, I've done some fun stuff like that and build artwork, and most of it revolves around like fabricating and doing stuff with my hands. I mean, I'm remodeling our house. You know, I guess that's kind of a hobby because it takes up a lot of time.
Right.
No, yeah, just I mean art. You know, I used to coach, youth soccer and baseball and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, just depends on, what's filling up the priorities at the time. And then what my kids are into. Like my son's doing marksmanship.
That's cool.
Shooting club at school.
Right.
At school. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
It's pretty incredible. Yeah.
So do they I guess they learn about the craftsmanship of the guns and everything too, not just the shooting?
It's everything. I mean, they have to, they learn all about it's primarily number one is safety. I mean, they teach safety. They teach firearm safety. They teach, they shoot shotguns. They shoot skeet. They do 22 rifles on range.
Mm-hmm.
They shoot bows, and they do orienteering. They have to learn how to read a compass and read a map and find points on a map using a compass.
Right.
I mean, it's and then they have to learn about wildlife and wildlife conservation, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's I didn't expect that club.
Yeah.
And my son's really enjoying it.
That's pretty awesome.
It is. I'm excited for him because he may never own a firearm the rest of his life, and he may never want to, but he'll know the proper ways to be safe around them or to handle them, or or how important conservation is, to our culture and to our country and to our environment. I mean, we have to coexist.
Yes. Now, is it is he doing online schooling?
He does. He's in a very small school in an academy.
Mm-hmm.
So he does a mix. Yeah, he does a mix. He's mostly online though. Yeah.
That's been a nice shift, huh?
It's tough. It's tough for us mostly. But no, it's hard. It's hard for everyone. My daughter's in college and she hates it. And because she wants to see other students. She plays soccer. She goes to Meredith, and they're about to have they pushed their season actually to the spring instead of having it in the fall so that they could have it. And she's going through withdrawal. She's like, she wants to get out on that field and play. And
are they still practicing?
They're doing some distance practicing and that they can, and they're trying to be, safe as they can and get ready for their season.
Yep.
But it's tough.
It's crazy. It's taking its toll on everything.
On everybody. Everybody.
Yeah, you don't even think about some of the things like collegiate sports at that level and stuff. Like they have to deal with it too.
Everybody, yeah. It's crazy. I mean, it's crazy.
Craziest rock and roll story.
Craziest rock and roll story. Well, I'll tell you the coolest rock and roll story. So the studio that my old bass player interned at, that we were from my first band, I went there like every single night. We would hang out and I'd help him clean up, and it was just a cool studio, and you never knew who was going to be there. Well, one day he calls me at home and he's like, "Get up here right now." It's like, "All right, what's going on?" He goes, "Just whatever you're doing, doesn't matter. Just get up here right now." Okay. I mean, I'd hung out with all kinds of artists up there, all kinds of people.
Yeah.
So I go up there and I pull in the back parking lot, and there's this massive van, like tour bus van,
right?
Sitting in the parking lot, but there's no names or nothing on it. You're just like, all right, well, there's any major label will give their band a tour bus, because I mean, you owe them that money. It's not like you're not paying it back. But no, so I walk in the back door and I'm standing there and I'm looking around and I don't see anybody. And then all of a sudden, this guy pops up from behind the counter at the front desk on the phone. He goes, "Hey, somebody tell this chick how to get here. She's got my weed." I'm like, "That's Phil Anselmo." And all of a sudden, I'm getting hit from behind by this guy going, "Oh, excuse me, sir. Excuse me." And I move out of the way, and it's Rex and Dimebag bringing in 2 fishing coolers full of beer and liquor.
Wow.
And I was like, pinching myself. I'm like, am I dreaming right now? And I looked at, and here comes my buddy walking around the corner with this just ear to ear grin. And he goes, "You know where he is?" And I just went running for the recording studio because Vinny was in there doing his sound check.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to hang out like that whole evening with Pantera
while they were working.
Well, and because it was, remember the first Crow, they did a cover for that album. So they had to record it in the midst of tour, and they happened to be in town. So they just jumped in that studio and recorded it. And so by the end of the night, it was like me, John, Dimebag, Vinny, and Rex sitting on the couch in like the hangout area watching Taxi Driver. And if you at the end of the movie, at the end of the song, if you listened at the end of the song, I think Phil was coming out to like take a leak, and he looked down and saw what we were watching, and he realized what part of the movie it was. And the next thing we know, he runs back in the studio, and then he comes running back out with like 100 foot of like mic cable, and he jumps right in front of the TV, and he goes, "All right, record it now. Okay, that's good." And he turns around, he runs back. Well, they put it at the end of the song where they were shooting at each other on the stairs, "Okay, you're son of a bitch." Right. And it was the funniest thing, because we're all sitting there looking at each other like, "What the hell was that?"
Right.
And they were like, "Yeah, it's just Phil."
That's pretty awesome.
It was like the coolest, like one of the coolest evenings of my life.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, and then now 2 of the 4 are gone.
Yeah,
which is sad.
Tragically too.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's my like coolest rock star story.
Who do you want to plug? I know you wanted to talk about some local bands. You want to talk about some venues?
Well, our new record that's coming out.
Yep.
It's going to be coming out on Black Chicken Records.
Wow, that's one of those labels that you're talking about that popped up?
Super indie. I think we're their first full band.
Wow.
Like they've got a couple of little solo artists out of Wilmington.
Yep.
It's a local little indie label. It's so we're excited to be their first full band, and we're going to be putting it out. The record is called Ses Pies Abajo, which means 6 feet below.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's rockabilly, but there's a little bit of surf, there's a little bit of honky tonk, there's a little bit of swing. I mean, we're trying to bounce rail to rail on it, so we're having a lot of fun with it.
Right.
But it also, you can tell by the title, it's there's some darkness in there, and there's some creepiness, because it's fun. Because I like to make people feel just uncomfortable enough, that they have to go get another drink, and then the bars like us better,
and they'll invite you back.
And but one of our singer, my singer Tommy, he came up with the album name because it was actually his mother's favorite song. Growing up, she would play it all the time. So you'll definitely look for that one. I think on our next record, we're gonna have to slip it in there, and since
that's cool.
Since we'll have to do a little tribute.
So when can people get the album?
We're trying. I think we're gonna send it to mastering next week.
Okay. You're far along in it then.
Yeah. It's recorded. The whole album's recorded.
Yeah.
We're buttoning up a few little details here, and then maybe in about a week we're sending it to mastering, and then when it comes back from mastering, it'll be ready for digital record. So we're gonna digital release. We're gonna release it digitally, and we're gonna press vinyl.
Very cool.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be exciting. I've never got to do a vinyl before,
right.
And I'm dead set on doing a vinyl. So we're gonna do a vinyl. We're gonna sign and number the first 100. We're gonna put little special things in there. So
very cool.
We'll
Is the Poorhouse gonna sell them?
Oh, I'm sure.
That's very cool.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, we'll get him some too.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we're pretty excited about that. And just having fun with it. And but it's we had to do something to keep from going stir crazy during all this because we couldn't play any shows. So it was perfect time.
We tried to hire you for bike nights, and you all came out and rocked it a couple times.
Yeah, we appreciate it for sure.
Yeah,
they
were socially distanced bike nights, and they weren't what they used to be, but it didn't matter to us.
No,
everyone's going crazy, and we decided if people will come and put up with what they have to do to attend, we're gonna make it fun for them.
Yeah, we actually I just ran into the one of the owners of Hugger Mugger Brewing, and I told him, I said, hey man, we're gonna just show up and we're gonna play on your patio outside. So just to give you a heads up. And he goes, just email us first so we know you're there.
Right.
Yeah, no problem. But he said we'd love to have you. And I have a feeling there's gonna be a lot of that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start like just popping up at places, playing acoustic, and just.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hey, we're here. We'll pop it on social media like 10 minutes before we're going to play.
Yeah.
Just because I know people are dying to hear live music. Yep. Maybe not our live music, but hey.
It's funny. I've seen all these different things like bands playing in one of the people's cul-de-sacs of one of their houses and the band members and like just random places just to play.
Oh yeah,
and
everyone's doing the driveway,
yeah.
like into the driveway seat chairs,
kind
of like when it snows and everyone comes out to their driveway and you have like a street barbecue.
It's hilarious to see, but people just doing what they have to.
Oh yeah, so, yeah, man.
Well, we've been talking an hour.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
It's almost an hour, right?
Wow.
I was a little worried that like I didn't have a lot of questions to ask you.
I think I got through like 5% of my notes.
Yeah, well, that's all right.
So if you're looking for something fun to do, this year, hopefully, I don't know if Capital City Bike Fest is going to happen.
So I have a contract with Geico.
Yes.
And we couldn't do it this year, obviously.
Well,
obviously. And Geico didn't really want to take any chances. So depending on what we are planning on having it now. Obviously, we have to see what happens, but I feel like everything's kind of loosening up a little bit. The vaccine's getting out there. I took my mom to get her first dose of her first shot the other day.
Excellent.
So I feel like it's far enough away that we're gonna work on planning it, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, we just booked our first show yesterday.
Awesome.
Just outside of Fredericksburg, Virginia, in June, a car show. So I know people they're excited. They're trying. Yeah. They're making those plans.
They are.
It's nothing's nothing's in concrete.
This year taught us kind of to maneuver a little bit quicker and not get disappointed if something doesn't happen, but to try to just put it out there and plan for it. Plan for the, what's the saying? Plan for the worst and hope for the best. So that's kind of what we're going to do with the events.
Well, I think we've already experienced the worst.
We have.
So let's plan for the best.
How can people book you?
Our best way to get a hold of us is on our Facebook page. It's Them Rockabilly. Or you can hit us up at them.rockabilly@gmail.com. And just to get a hold of us. And we love car shows, weddings, bar mitzvahs,
birthday parties.
Hey man, at this point, all I'd say is live show to my guys and they start shaking.
Right.
It's like it's like they're itching and fiending out.
Well, I appreciate you stopping by and spending some time with us tonight.
Anytime.
Thank you very much for taking the time. I know it's late and your family's here, so thank you for them for coming out and spending some time with us too. Appreciate the people that tuned in today, and obviously this will be on Spotify and iTunes tomorrow when it posts, so you can rewatch the podcast and all the other ones there. Thank you to Geico Insurance for sponsoring the podcast. And hanging in there with us through all these tough times. They've been an awesome partner for the dealership and for the community here in Raleigh, the motorcycle community. So we appreciate it very much. Frank from the local office, Frank Fortunato, I want to give a shout out to him. If you need some insurance, you can contact the Geico local office and they'll hook you up and take good care of you. So appreciate everybody tuning in, and we're not next week, but the week after, right?
Yes.
So first Monday in February. All right. Good night.
Cheers.